At family dinner, my father leaned back in his chair, raised his glass like he was giving a toast no one asked for, and said, "Your sister Erica? She is the reason we still have this house. She pulled us through when it counted." Everyone smiled. My mother passed the dinner rolls. My uncle nodded like it was gospel. No one looked at me. I cut into my food slowly and said, "Then explain why nearly $20,000 left my account last year, and none of you noticed." The table went quiet. Even the old ceiling fan above us seemed to stop humming. That dinner had started in comfort and ended in collapse. But let me back up. Let me tell you how a family that looked perfect from the outside could shatter from a single question asked at the wrong moment. Or maybe it was exactly the right moment. Maybe it was years overdue. My name is Diane Green. I am 42 years old, and I have lived my entire life in a small town 40 minutes outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place where the water tower still has the high school mascot painted on it from 1987, where the diner on Main Street serves the same meatloaf special every Thursday and everyone pretends to like it, where people measure success by how often your name appears in the church bulletin for volunteer work. I work as a social worker at Fairfield County Hospital. For 15 years, I have sat with families in waiting rooms that smell like disinfectant and dread. I help them navigate insurance forms, payment plans, assistance programs. I know exactly how much a crisis costs, not just in dollars, but in dignity. Maybe that is why what happened with my family cuts so deep. I knew better. I saw the warning signs every day at work, and I still miss them at home. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the one who kept her room clean, turned in homework early, saved her allowance in a ceramic piggy bank shaped like a barn. My sister Erica, 2 years younger, was different. She was the one people noticed. Bright smile that could light up the church basement, loud laugh that made teachers forgive late assignments, always surrounded by friends who hung on her every word. My parents loved us both, but they lit up differently when Erica walked into a room. Dad would put down his newspaper. Mom would stop stirring whatever was on the stove. Even our old dog Chester would wag his tail harder for her. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself being reliable was its own reward. I told myself a lot of things that helped me sleep at night in my single bed in my small room, while Erica got the bigger one with the window seat because she needed more space for her things. By the time we were adults, the roles had calcified like mineral deposits in old pipes. Erica opened a flower shop downtown, petals and promises that everyone praised as entrepreneurial and brave. The local paper even did a feature on her. Young business owner brings beauty to Main Street. They used a photo of her holding a bouquet of sunflowers, smiling like she had discovered the secret to happiness. The truth was less photogenic. The shop barely broke even. Most months, it lost money. But Erica had a gift for making struggle look like strategy. She would post on social media about investing in growth and building something meaningful. People believed her because people always believed Erica. I worked quietly at the hospital, saving money, living simply, driving the same Honda Civic for 12 years until the floor rusted through and I could see the road beneath my feet. I rented a one-bedroom apartment above the hardware store because it was cheap and close to work. I bought generic cereal and clipped coupons and told myself that someday all this careful living would mean something. Then my father got sick. It happened on a Tuesday in March. One moment he was fixing the garage door that had been sticking since Christmas. The next he was on his knees in the driveway, clutching his chest. Mom found him there, his face the color of ash, his breathing shallow and wrong. The ambulance ride took 11 minutes. The diagnosis took 11 seconds. 3 blocked arteries, emergency triple bypass scheduled for the following morning. The cardiologist, a young woman who looked like she had not slept in days, explained it all with practiced efficiency while my mother sobbed into a handful of tissues and I took notes on the back of a grocery receipt. The surgery went well. That is what they told us. 5 hours of cutting and stitching and rerouting blood through veins harvested from his leg. He woke up confused but alive, tubes down his throat, machines beeping in rhythm with his repaired heart. The bills started arriving before he even left the ICU. Insurance covered some. The big things, mostly. The surgery itself, 3 days in intensive care, the basic medications, but there were gaps. Enormous gaps. The specialist who was called in at 2 in the morning, the blood work that was somehow out of network. the physical therapy that was above usual and customary rates. My mother called me from the hospital parking lot on day 4. It was raining. That cold March rain that feels like it might never stop. I could hear it hitting her windshield as she tried to speak through tears. Diane, we cannot lose the house. It is all we have. Your father built that back deck with his own hands. We brought you girls home from the hospital to that house. We cannot— Mom, I interrupted. Stop. I will handle it. How? We have maybe 3,000 in savings. The bills are already at 20,000 and climbing. I said, I will handle it. There was a long pause, just rain and breathing. I do not want you to sacrifice. It is not a sacrifice, I lied. It is family. Before I tell you exactly how much I gave up to keep that promise, let me know where you are watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. I need to know I am not the only one who has paid a price for family that no one else even noticed. Over the next 9 months, I systematically dismantled the life I had built. First went the savings account I had been growing since I was 25. $17,000 meant for a house down payment someday, maybe when I turned 45 or 50. Next, I sold my car to a dealer who knew he was robbing me, but also knew I needed cash immediately. I got $4,000 for a vehicle worth twice that. I bought a rusty Ford Focus from a coworker's son. It smelled like cigarettes and disappointment, but it ran. I canceled the vacation I had been planning for 3 years, a week in Yellowstone, just me and nature and silence. Non-refundable meant non-refundable, but I tried anyway. Nothing. I moved from my 1-bedroom apartment to a studio above the laundromat. The washing machines ran until midnight, and my walls vibrated with the spin cycle, but it saved me $300 a month. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every single day. Skippy on white bread, no jelly. Jelly was an extra $1.50, and dollars mattered now. My coworkers stopped inviting me to lunch because I always said no. Eventually, they stopped asking if I was okay too. $23,000 in total. That is what I paid to keep my father alive and my parents in their home. The payments were complicated. Medical billing always is. Some went directly to the hospital through their payment portal, others to surgical specialists who had their own billing companies. The anesthesiologist wanted a check. The physical therapy clinic only took credit cards. It was a maze of bureaucracy and deadlines and late fees if you missed by even a day. To streamline everything, I asked Erica to handle the reimbursement paperwork. She had more flexible hours at the shop, and she had always been better with computers than our parents. Plus, there was supposed to be a partial reimbursement from Dad's old union insurance, probably 8,000 to 10,000 if we filed everything correctly. Of course, Diane, she said when I asked. We were standing in the hospital cafeteria, both holding coffee that tasted like burnt water. We are family, we take care of each other. She hugged me then, and I smelled her perfume, something expensive that I could never justify buying. I hugged her back and felt relieved. Finally, something Erica could handle. I gave her my account information for the reimbursement deposits. She said it would be easier that way, more direct. She could monitor everything and let me know when the money came through. I believed her. Why would I not? She was my sister. She stood next to me at Dad's bedside when he was still unconscious. She held Mom's hand during the surgeon's update. She brought flowers from her shop to brighten his recovery room, white roses that probably cost more than my weekly groceries. For months, things seemed stable. Dad's recovery was slow but steady. 6 weeks of cardiac rehab, walks around the block that started at 5 minutes and stretched to 30. Mom started sleeping through the night again. The color returned to her face, and she began cooking real dinners instead of opening cans of soup. Erica posted photos on Facebook of the family at Sunday brunches. Dad in his Cardinals cap, Mom in her good church dress, all of us around a table at the diner, smiling. #blessed, #grateful, #family first. But something felt off. Little things at first, barely noticeable unless you were looking. Erica bought a new SUV, white leather seats, backup camera, those automatic wipers that sense rain. When I asked about it, she laughed. Business is finally picking up, she said. Wedding season, you know. Except I drove past her shop regularly on my way to work. The parking lot was always empty except for her car and maybe one customer. The window display had not changed in 3 months. Dust was collecting on the silk arrangements visible from the street. Then there were the vacations. a long weekend in Nashville in June, a week in Hilton Head in August, another long weekend in Chicago for a flower convention that she never mentioned before or after. She posted constantly, sunsets reflecting off her sunglasses, cocktails with little umbrellas, her feet in the sand with a fresh pedicure. Must be nice, I said during one family dinner, trying to keep my voice light. You should treat yourself too, Diane, she replied, not looking up from her phone. Life is short. You cannot take it with you. I wanted to laugh, or scream, or show her my bank statement with its two-digit balance. Instead, I smiled and passed the green beans that I had brought because contributing a side dish was cheaper than hosting. The truth started revealing itself 6 months after Dad's surgery. September, when the leaves were just beginning to turn and the air had that crisp feeling that meant summer was truly over. I received a letter from the IRS about unreported income. Apparently, a medical reimbursement of $18,000 had been issued in my name, but never declared on my taxes. The letter was polite but firm. Pay the taxes owed plus penalties, or face investigation. $18,000. I stared at the number until it blurred. That was impossible. I had never seen a penny of reimbursement. Every call to the insurance company had ended with still processing or under review. I called them immediately. After 40 minutes on hold, listening to a loop of music that sounded like a funeral dirge, a tired customer service representative confirmed it. The check was issued 8 months ago and cashed within a week. Cashed by who? My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from someone else. Let me see. The account holder listed is Erica Green. The phone slipped from my hand. It hit the linoleum floor of my studio apartment with a crack. I could hear the representative's voice, tiny and distant, asking if I was still there. I sat on my pull-out couch, staring at the water stain on the ceiling that looked like a map of somewhere I had never been. My hands were numb. My chest felt tight. This had to be a mistake, a misunderstanding, a glitch in the system. But even as I thought it, I knew better. I knew the way you know that rain is coming when your joints ache, the way you know someone is lying when they look just past your ear instead of at your eyes. That night, I went through everything. Bank statements spread across my small table like evidence in a crime scene. Emails printed out and highlighted, text messages screenshot and enlarged. The pattern emerged like a photograph developing in slow motion, details sharpening until the image was undeniable. Every reimbursement check, $18,000 for the surgery, another $5,000 for the aftercare, had gone to Erica. She had taken it all. But where did it go? I barely slept that night. The washing machines below churned and spun while I sat at my laptop, searching for answers. Erica's social media told one story: success, happiness, a life well lived. But social media is just marketing for personal lives, and I knew enough about marketing to know it was mostly lies. I started with her business records. In Ohio, LLC filings are public information. Petals and Promises had reported losses for 3 consecutive years. She was behind on her commercial lease. The wholesaler she bought flowers from had filed 2 complaints for non-payment. Her personal credit was harder to access, but I had her social security number from when we had co-signed for our grandmother's burial expenses 5 years ago. I should not have looked, but I did. 7 credit cards, all maxed out. 2 personal loans from those predatory places that advertise on bus stops. A judgment from a jewelry store for non-payment on something called Premium Diamond Set. She was drowning, and she had used my money as a life raft. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. My supervisor sounded concerned. Diane, are you okay? This is not like you. I am fine. I lied. Just need a day. I drove to Erica's shop at 10 in the morning on a Tuesday when I knew she would be out at her weekly business networking breakfast, which I now suspected was just an excuse to get free coffee and pastries at the Hampton Inn. The teenage girl working the register looked bored, scrolling through her phone with the dedication of someone getting paid minimum wage to pretend to care. Is Erica around? I asked. She did not look up. She is at that investment thing again. Investment thing? Finally, she raised her eyes. Yeah, some guy named Ken runs it. She goes like twice a week now. Says it is going to change everything, make her rich, or whatever. Ken? Ken Lambert. He has this whole presentation about real estate and passive income and stuff. My mom says he is full of it, but Erica is like obsessed. Ken Lambert. The name felt important, like a password to a door I was not sure I wanted to open. If you have ever discovered that someone you trusted was living a completely different life than the one they showed you, hit subscribe. Sometimes the truth is hiding in plain sight, and we just choose not to see it. I found Ken Lambert online within minutes. His website was a masterpiece of vague promises and stock photos. Smiling couples standing in front of houses they did not own, graphs that went up and to the right without any actual numbers, testimonials from people identified only by their initials, KL Prosperity Ventures, building tomorrow's wealth today. His photo showed a man in his 40s with the kind of smile that never reached his eyes, hair slicked back with too much product, suit that looked expensive from far away but was probably polyester up close. He was standing in front of a Lincoln Town car like it was a Bentley. I had seen men like Ken Lambert my whole life. They showed up at town council meetings with big plans for development that never developed. They dated divorced women with good credit and disappeared when the money ran out. They sold dreams to people desperate enough to buy them. I called my cousin Beth, who worked at First National Bank downtown. We had grown up together, shared a bedroom during family vacations, kept each other's secrets. Can you tell me if Erica has been making any large transfers recently? Beth hesitated. Diane, you know I cannot. Please, something is wrong, really wrong. She sighed. Come by tomorrow after 5. Bring coffee, the good stuff from that place on High Street, not the bank's will. The next evening, Beth slid a piece of paper across her desk. It was not official, just handwritten notes in her neat script. But it was enough. Over the past 8 months, Erica had transferred $17,000 to an account registered to KL Prosperity Ventures. There is more, Beth said, quietly. She took out a personal loan for $10,000 last month, told them it was for shop improvements. Let me guess where that went. Same account, $27,000. My $23,000 plus more, all flowing to Ken Lambert and his promises. Beth, who else is involved with this guy? She pulled up something on her computer, typed for a moment, then turned the screen toward me. At least 6 other accounts show similar patterns. All women, all between 30 and 50, all transferring regular amounts to KL Prosperity. I recognized 2 names immediately. Sarah Morrison, who worked at the post office and had inherited money when her mother died. Jennifer Huang, whose husband had died in Afghanistan and left her his life insurance. He is targeting women with money and grief, I said. Or women with money and dreams? Beth replied. Sometimes that is the same thing. That weekend was my mother's 67th birthday. Another command performance at the house I had helped save. I sat in my car in the driveway for 5 minutes before going in, practicing my normal face in the mirror. The face that did not know what I knew. The face that still believed in family. Erica arrived late, as always, carrying an expensive bouquet and a gift bag from that boutique downtown where a candle costs $40. She air-kissed Mom, handed Dad a bottle of wine I recognized as being worth at least $60, and settled into her chair like a queen granting an audience. Sorry, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Business has been absolutely crazy. I can barely keep up with orders. I watched her throughout dinner, the way she laughed too loud at Dad's recycled jokes, the way she kept checking her phone, smiling at messages she did not share, the way she avoided my eyes like she knew they might see too much. Mom had made German chocolate cake from scratch, the way she had for every birthday since we were children. The frosting was perfect. The pecans toasted just right. This was love in the form of sugar and butter, and we all knew it. Dad stood up to make one of his speeches. He had been doing this more since the surgery, like he needed to mark every occasion with words in case it was his last chance. 67 years, he said, looking at Mom with the soft eyes of a man who still saw the girl he married, and I would not have made it to see this one without my family, especially Erica, who kept us afloat when things got rough. That was when I broke. Not dramatically, not with tears or shouting. I broke quietly, the way ice cracks under spring sun, invisible at first, then all at once. Actually, Dad, I have a question about that. The room shifted. Forks paused midair. Mom's smile froze like someone had taken a photograph. What question? Erica asked. Her voice was tight, controlled, but I heard the fear underneath. I pulled out my phone and showed them the IRS letter, held it up like evidence in a trial. This reimbursement, $18,000. It was supposed to replace what I paid for Dad's surgery. Mom's face went pale. What reimbursement? The one Erica cashed, I said simply. Erica stood up so fast, her chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Mom polished every week. That is ridiculous. I have the receipts, I interrupted. My voice was calm. So calm it scared me. The bank records, the transfers to Ken Lambert. Dad's voice was low, dangerous. Who is Ken Lambert? Erica's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Her hands fluttered to her phone, her hair searching for something solid to hold onto. Finally, she managed. He is helping me invest for the family, for our future. With my money? I said. It was not just yours, she snapped. Some of her old fire returning. It was for all of us, to build something bigger. No, I said, standing now too. It was mine. I sold my car. I emptied my savings. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for 9 months while you posted beach photos from Hilton Head. Mom started crying quietly, the way she did when she did not want to bother anyone with her pain. Dad's hands were shaking, whether from rage or his heart condition, I could not tell. How much? He asked Erica. She would not answer. How much? He repeated, louder this time. 17,000, I said for her. So far, plus another 10,000 she borrowed last month. The silence that followed was not peaceful. It was the kind that comes before buildings collapse, when the supports have failed and gravity is about to win. Erica grabbed her purse, her keys jangling like an alarm. I do not have to listen to this. Ken said you would not understand. Small-minded people never do. He said I was special, that I could see the bigger picture. The only thing special about you, I said quietly, is how much you are willing to take from people who love you. She left, slamming the door so hard, the family photos on the wall shook. We sat in the ruins of my mother's birthday, the candles on the cake still burning, wax dripping onto the perfect frosting. We need to call the police, Dad said finally. No, I said. First we need to understand exactly what we are dealing with, then we act. The next morning, I did what Erica never expected. I became someone she did not recognize, someone who fought back. I started with research, real research, not just Google searches. I paid for a background check on Ken Lambert. His real name was Kenneth Loomis, and he had a history. Fraud charges in Indiana that were pleaded down, a civil suit in Michigan for running a pyramid scheme, an arrest in West Virginia for writing bad checks, though the charges were dropped when he paid restitution. He was a professional con man, and my sister was just his latest mark. I contacted the other women Beth had identified. Sarah Morrison cried when I explained why I was calling. She had given Ken $30,000, her entire inheritance from her mother. He said we were building senior communities, she whispered. Places where people like my mom could have lived with dignity. How could I not invest in that? Jennifer Huang was angrier. Her husband had died serving his country, and Ken had convinced her that investing in veteran housing developments would honor his memory. $45,000 gone. Within a week, we had identified 12 victims just in our county. The total was over $300,000. I called the Ohio Attorney General's office. The woman who answered sounded tired until I mentioned Ken Lambert's name. We have been tracking him, she said, but we needed victims willing to testify. How many do you have? 12 so far? Probably more. Can you get them to a meeting? Yes. When the police showed up at Erica's shop 3 days later, she called me screaming, "How could you do this to me? I am your sister." "You stole from me," I said calmly. "You stole from our parents. You stole from Sarah Morrison and Jennifer Huang and women whose names you do not even know." "I was trying to build something," she cried. "You would not understand. You have never taken a risk in your life." "I risked everything for Dad," I said. "The difference is I did not gamble with someone else's sacrifice." She hung up on me. The investigation moved faster than I expected. Ken had made mistakes. Sloppy ones. He had not filed any actual business papers for KL Prosperity Ventures. The property he claimed to be developing did not exist. The office he worked from was a rented mailbox at a UPS store. When they arrested him at a motel near the Indiana border, he had $60,000 in cash in his car and 3 different fake IDs. He had been planning to run, but we had moved too fast. The trial took 4 months. Erica had to testify as both a victim and an accomplice. Watching her on the stand was like watching a stranger wear my sister's face. no makeup to hide the circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, voice small and broken. He made me believe I was special, she said to the prosecutor, that I could be more than just a failing flower shop owner in a dying town. And you believed him? I needed to, she whispered. I needed to believe I was worth believing in, even after everything. That still hurt to hear. Ken got 7 years in federal prison for wire fraud, mail fraud, and running a financial scheme. The judge called him a predator who exploited hope and trust for personal gain. The victims would get some restitution from his seized assets, but not much. Maybe 20 cents on the dollar if we were lucky. After the trial, Erica found me in the parking lot. The spring rain was just starting, and neither of us had umbrellas. I do not know how to fix this, she said. Start by telling Mom and Dad the truth, I replied. All of it. Not the version where you are the victim. The version where you made choices. She nodded, tears mixing with rain on her face. I am sorry, Diane. I am so sorry. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to shake her until she understood what she had cost us all. Instead, I got in my rusty Ford Focus and drove home. The months that followed were strange. Quiet in a way that felt like recovery from surgery, necessary but uncomfortable with phantom pain where something used to be. Erica closed her flower shop. There was no grand goodbye sale, no farewell party, just a handwritten sign on the door one morning. Closed. Thank you for 10 years. She got a job at the medical supply company outside town, working in the warehouse. Nothing glamorous. Inventory management, filing, loading trucks. She moved back in with our parents, sleeping in her childhood room with the same lavender walls and boy band posters from high school. Every month, she sent me a check for $500. Not much against 23,000, but consistent. The memo line always said the same thing, working on it. Dad aged visibly in those months. The betrayal hit him harder than the heart surgery had. He had always been the kind of man who believed family meant something sacred, something worth protecting above all else. To learn that belief had been exploited by his own daughter, it broke something in him that medication could not fix. One evening, I found him in the garage, organizing tools he never used anymore. His hands moved slowly, deliberately, sorting screws by size, even though he had not built anything in years. I failed you, he said without looking up. No, Dad, I did. I made her think she was above consequences. Made you think you were below consideration. I played favorites. And look what it cost. We stood there in silence, surrounded by hammers and wrenches that would probably never build anything again. The garage smelled like motor oil and regret. We cannot change what happened, I said finally. We can only change what happens next. He nodded, but I could see he was not convinced. Some wounds do not heal. They just become part of your geography, like rivers that carved canyons, the absence as defining as what was there before. Mom handled it differently. She threw herself into her garden with religious devotion. Tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, 3 kinds of squash. She grew enough to supply half the neighborhood, leaving bags of vegetables on doorsteps, like apologies for something that was not her fault. One afternoon, while helping her stake the tomato plants, she said, I should have seen it. Nobody saw it, Mom. No, she said firmly, her hands steady on the wire cage. I saw it. I just did not want to look at it. It is easier to believe the story everyone tells than to ask why the plot does not make sense. That was the most honest thing anyone had said in months. Winter came early that year, the way it sometimes does in Ohio, sudden and harsh, like nature was tired of pretending autumn mattered. The first snow fell before Halloween, covering everything in white that made the whole town look clean and new, even though nothing had changed underneath. I got a job offer in February, Madison, Wisconsin. Better pay, better position, a chance to supervise a whole department of social workers instead of just managing cases. It meant leaving everything familiar, but familiar had become another word for haunted. Every street corner reminded me of something lost. Every family dinner felt like acting in a play where everyone had forgotten their lines. The night before I left, we had one last family dinner. No speeches this time, no toasts, no cake, just the 4 of us eating Mom's pot roast, the same recipe she had been making for 40 years, trying to find words that fit the space between us. Erica gave me an envelope. Inside was a photo from when we were kids, both of us at the county fair, maybe 8 and 10 years old, covered in powdered sugar from funnel cakes. missing teeth, smiling like we had discovered happiness for the first time and thought it would last forever. On the back, she had written, "Before I learned to pretend, when you were still teaching me to be real." "I will pay it all back," she said quietly. "I know," I said, and for the first time I actually believed her, not because she had changed, but because she finally understood what she had taken. Not just money, but trust. Not just savings, but sacrifice. Dad shook my hand at the door, then pulled me into a hug that surprised us both. Mom held on until I could not breathe, whispering prayers into my hair like they might follow me north. Erica stood on the porch, waving until my car turned the corner. In the rearview mirror, she looked smaller than I remembered, like the distance had already started to reconcile who she was with who I had needed her to be. If this story resonates with you, if you have ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your truth, please hit like. I need to know I am not the only one who learned that sometimes love means letting go of the story you wish was true,